This 4-year-old beggar girl is stoned and kicked out of a kid's party, but a millionaire sees it, picks up a stone, and does something that shocks everyone. Comment what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The scorching afternoon sun beat mercilessly on the cracked pavement of a wealthy suburb in Atlanta, Georgia, as 6-year-old Lily pressed her small face against the wrought-iron gates of the Caldwell mansion. Her bare feet burned on the hot concrete, but she didn't care. Beyond those gleaming bars, a world of wonder unfolded before her wide eyes. The children's party was in full swing. Dozens of kids raced across the manicured lawn, their colorful clothes a stark contrast to the perfect green of the trimmed grass. Multicolored balloons danced in the warm wind, tied to white chairs arranged around tables laden with sweets that Lily only knew from the windows of the downtown bakeries. A 3-tiered cake, decorated with cartoon characters, stood at the center of the main table like a sugar castle. Lily's dress, once pink, now faded and torn at the knee, clung to her thin body with sweat. She didn't realize she was attracting the attention of the adults on the other side of the gate, nor did she notice the disapproving glances cast in her direction. To her, it was pure magic. Her little hands gripped the bars tightly, as if she could absorb some of that joy through the heated metal. That's when the ball escaped. A red and white ball, striped like a candy cane, rolled across the grass and under the gate, stopping right at Lily's feet. The girl looked around, confused, before bending down and picking up the object with the care of someone holding treasure. The ball was soft and smelled new, unlike the few improvised toys she knew. Lily approached the gate again, extending the ball through the bars. "Ma'am, this is yours," she said, in her thin voice, addressing an elegant woman in a floral dress who was watching the children play. The reaction was immediate and brutal. "Get out of here, you filthy child!" The woman shrieked, recoiling as if Lily were contagious. "Don't touch the ball with those dirty hands!" Other people turned, attracted by the shout. A man in a polo shirt approached with an indignant expression. "How dare you come here? This is private property." Lily recoiled, frightened, but still held the ball. "I just wanted to give it back." "Give it back?" Another woman laughed with disdain. "You want to steal something, don't you? Street kids are all the same." The first man bent down and picked up a stone from the decorative landscaping of the garden. "Get out of here before I call the cops." He threw the stone, which grazed Lily's arm. The girl dropped the ball and started to run, tears streaming down her dirty cheeks, when a screeching sound of brakes cut through the air. An imported car, black and gleaming, stopped abruptly in front of the mansion. Walter Caldwell, 52 years old, emerged from the vehicle with precise and calculated movements. His dark grey suit was impeccable despite the heat, and his cold eyes scanned the scene in seconds. He saw Lily huddled on the sidewalk, trembling. He saw the elegant adults with stones in their hands. He saw the abandoned ball on the ground. Without saying a word, Walter bent down and picked up one of the stones they had thrown at the girl. The silence became absolute. Everyone knew that man, the richest businessman in the region, owner of the largest construction company in Georgia, someone who didn't mingle with common people. "How dare you?" Walter's voice was low, but charged with an authority that made everyone back away. He raised his arm and threw the stone forcefully in the direction of the group, making them scatter. "Never, ever will I allow a child to be treated like an animal in this town." The man in the polo shirt tried to protest, his voice trembling. "Mr. Caldwell, you don't understand. This girl—" "What I understand," Walter interrupted, his voice rising, "is that I see supposedly civilized adults attacking a 6-year-old child because she tried to return something that wasn't hers." He picked up another stone. "Who else wants to throw stones? Come on, show your courage against someone your own size." The party guests dispersed quickly, muttering apologies and justifications that no one wanted to hear. In a few minutes, the garden that had once swarmed with joy was almost empty. Walter turned to Lily, who was watching him with a mixture of fear and fascination. For a moment his eyes softened, revealing something that few had ever seen, a deep vulnerability hidden behind decades of emotional armor. "Are you hurt?" he asked, crouching on the sidewalk. Lily shook her head, wiping away the tears with the back of her hand. "They didn't like me," she murmured. "The problem isn't you, kid. The problem is them." Walter hesitated, as if fighting against something inside. "What's your name?" "Lily. Lily Johnson." "Lily." He repeated the name as if he were engraving it in his memory. "Where are your parents?" "I live with Grandma Betty. She's at home, resting her heart." Lily pointed vaguely in the direction of the poorer neighborhoods of the city. Walter was silent for long seconds, watching that frail child who had just shaken something fundamental in his carefully controlled existence. There was something in the way she looked at him, without fear, without interest in his wealth, just with the genuine curiosity of a child, that deeply disturbed him. "Go home," he said finally, standing up, "and be careful out there." Lily nodded and started to walk away, but then turned around. "Thank you, nice mister," she said, with a shy smile that made something stir in Walter's chest. As he watched the girl disappear into the narrow streets of the neighborhood, Walter wondered why he had acted that way. In 52 years of life, he had developed a perfect system of emotional detachment. He didn't get involved. He didn't care. He didn't allow anything or anyone to breach his defenses. But there was something in those brown eyes, in that innocent courage to try to return a ball instead of running away with it, that had cracked his armor like a stone-breaking glass. And for the first time in decades, Walter Caldwell found himself thinking about someone other than himself, unable to explain why. Betty's small house was at the end of a dirt road, where the houses pressed against each other like crooked teeth. The old shingle roof leaked when it rained, and the exposed brick walls had never received a coat of paint. But for Lily, that was the coziest home in the world. Betty Johnson, at 71 years old, had calloused hands from a lifetime of hard work and a weak heart that forced her to take constant breaks. When Lily arrived running, still with her eyes red from crying, her grandmother was sitting in the cracked wooden rocking chair, making crepe paper flowers to sell at the downtown intersection. "What's wrong, honey? Why the sad face?" Betty set aside her work and opened her arms to receive her granddaughter. Lily threw herself into her grandmother's lap, smelling the familiar scent of perfume and heart medicine. "Grandma, some people threw stones at me because I tried to give them back their ball." "They threw stones at you?" Betty's voice trembled with indignation. "Where was this, child?" "At the big house, the one with the gold gate. But a man in a suit showed up who argued with them and defended me." Lily raised her face, her eyes shining. "He was very handsome, Grandma, and he had a really big black car." Betty frowned. In her life experience, rich men didn't defend poor children for no reason. "What was this man like, Lily?" "Tall, hair kind of grey, serious eyes. But when he looked at me, they got less angry." The girl paused. He asked, "My name and where I live." Betty's heart skipped a beat, not just because of her illness. Something about that description bothered her, but she couldn't identify what. "You told him where we live?" "I said I live with Grandma nearby. I didn't say the exact address." "You did well." Betty adjusted Lily in her lap, feeling the girl's light weight. "Lily, my dear, you need to understand something. People like us and people like that man live in different worlds. Sometimes they help, but it's better not to get used to it." "Why, Grandma?" Because our life is simple and theirs is complicated. And when the two worlds mix, those who suffer are the little ones like you." Lily nodded without fully understanding, but she trusted her grandmother's wisdom more than anything in the world. That night, as Betty prepared the simple dinner of cornbread with egg and a little bit of leftover ham from the day before, she couldn't get the description that Lily had given of the man out of her head. There was something familiar, an echo of memory that insisted on forming but didn't reach consciousness. On the other side of the city, in the penthouse of his business building, Walter Caldwell couldn't concentrate on the financial reports spread out on his mahogany desk. Through the panoramic window, he watched the city lights as Lily's face insisted on appearing in his mind. There was something in those brown eyes that deeply disturbed him, a purity that he had lost so long ago that he didn't even remember what it was like to possess it. And when she called him "nice mister" with that shy smile, something moved inside him, something that he had buried for decades and sworn never to awaken again. Walter got up and walked to the bookcase where he kept a single personal photograph, hidden behind the business books. In the faded image, a 6-year-old boy smiled shyly at the camera, wearing patched clothes and torn shoes. Himself, 46 years ago, before becoming the ruthless businessman he was today. "No," he murmured to himself, quickly putting the photo away. "I can't get involved, not again." But even as he tried to convince himself of this, Walter already knew that he had lost the battle. For the first time in decades, someone had managed to break through his defenses, and it was a 6-year-old child who didn't even know his name. The next morning, Lily woke up to the sound of Betty coughing in the kitchen. The cough had been getting worse in recent weeks, and the girl knew with the heightened intuition of children that her grandmother was not well. "Grandma, do you want me to make the coffee?" offered Lily, already knowing how to light the small 2-burner stove. "No need, honey. Grandma can still take care of you." But Betty's voice was weak, and she needed to lean on the sink to avoid falling. After the breakfast of stale bread with margarine, the two went out for another day of work. Betty carried a bag with the paper flowers, and Lily carried a small pot of water for when her grandmother felt bad. The intersection of Peachtree Street and Lenox Road had been Betty's point of sale for over 10 years. There, among the cars that stopped at the red light, she offered her flowers with a tired but genuine smile. Lily always stayed by her side, watching the city's traffic and dreaming of the places where those fancy cars were going. That's when the black gleaming car stopped at the light. Lily immediately recognized the vehicle and the man behind the wheel. Walter was staring straight ahead, his hands tense on the steering wheel, pretending not to see the pair. But his hands betrayed his tension, and his gaze, however much he tried to avoid it, constantly strayed in their direction. "Grandma, it's him?" whispered Lily, pointing discreetly. Betty followed her granddaughter's gaze and felt her heart race. Even through the tinted glass, even after so many years, she recognized that profile. The memory that insisted on forming the night before finally completed itself, bringing with it an avalanche of memories that she had tried to forget. "My God," she murmured, her voice almost inaudible. The light turned green, and the car drove away quickly, but Betty remained still in the middle of the sidewalk, her face as pale as paper. Grandma, what's wrong?" Lily pulled on her grandmother's dress sleeve, worried. "Nothing, my dear. Just remembered something old." Betty shook her head, trying to ward off the thoughts. "Let's go home. Today is not a day to sell flowers." "But, Grandma, we need the money." "Not today, Lily, please." As they walked home in silence, Betty fought against the memories that stirred in her mind, like muddy water stirred forcefully. There were things that she had promised to take to the grave, secrets that could change everything if they came to light. And now, after so many years, the past had returned in the form of a successful man driving an imported car, interested in her granddaughter. That night, when Lily finally fell asleep, Betty sat in the rocking chair and let the tears flow. freely. She had spent her whole life protecting that girl, building walls around her to keep her safe. But some walls, she knew, were about to crumble, and when that happened, nothing would ever be the same. For 3 nights in a row, Walter Caldwell drove through the streets of downtown Atlanta with no apparent destination. He always passed by the intersection of Peachtree Street and Lenox Road at the same time, but Betty and Lily no longer appeared. Their absence bothered him more than he would like to admit. On the 4th morning, tired of fighting against his own impulses, Walter made a decision that would change everything. He drove to the most expensive supermarket in the city and filled 2 carts with groceries: rice, beans, meat, fruits, basic medicines, powdered milk, and a small doll that caught his attention in the toy section. At 3 in the morning, when the streets were deserted, he drove to the neighborhood where Lily had indicated she lived. It wasn't difficult to find the small house. It was the only one with a rocking chair on the porch and paper flowers drying on the clothesline. Walter left the bags at the door silently, like a benevolent ghost, and walked away before anyone could see him. He repeated this for an entire week, always at the same time, always with the same care not to be discovered. It was Lily who caught him. On the 8th night, the girl had woken up thirsty and went to the kitchen to get water when she heard noises at the door. Curious, she peeked through the crack in the window and saw the silhouette of a tall man leaving packages on the threshold. The black car parked on the corner confirmed her suspicions. Instead of waking her grandmother, Lily waited in silence until Walter finished his task. When he turned to leave, she opened the door slowly. "Nice, mister," called in a low voice. Walter froze. Slowly he turned and found Lily standing on the threshold, barefoot and in her nightgown, her large eyes shining in the darkness. "You should be sleeping," he said, his voice softer than he intended. "I woke up thirsty." Lily looked at the bags at his feet. "Why do you bring us food?" The simple and direct question disrupted all the elaborate answers that Walter had prepared, in case he was discovered. Because you need it. But you don't even know me that well." "I don't need to know you to know that a child shouldn't be in need." Lily smiled, that shy smile that made something stir in Walter's chest. "Thank you. Grandma is very worried because the money from the flowers isn't enough to buy her medicine." "What medicine?" "For her heart. She pretends she's okay, but I know it hurts a lot." The girl lowered her eyes. "Sometimes she cries when she thinks I'm not watching." Walter crouched down, getting to her level. "And you? Are you well taken care of?" "Grandma takes care of me the best she can. She loves me very much." Lily hesitated. "But sometimes I'm afraid she'll leave like Mom did." "Your mom?" "She passed away when I was little. Grandma said she went to live with the angels." Lily raised her eyes. "Do you think Grandma will go live with the angels too?" The innocent question hit Walter like a punch to the stomach. He had spent his whole life avoiding exactly this type of emotional connection, this raw vulnerability that children possessed. "Your grandma is going to be okay," he said, not knowing if he was lying. "And now you have enough food and medicine. Is it you who leaves things every night?" Walter nodded. "Why?" The question came loaded with genuine curiosity, without malice or material interest. "Because when I was your age, someone helped me when I needed it most, and it changed my life." Lily processed the information seriously. "You were poor like me?" "I was, very poor. And now you're rich." "Now I am. So can I get rich too when I grow up?" The hope in the girl's voice made something break inside Walter. "You can, if you study hard and never give up on your dreams." "What was your dream when you were little?" Walter was silent for a long moment. "I dreamed of never going hungry again, and of having a real family." "Do you have family now?" "No. I don't have anyone. Lily tilted her head, observing him with those eyes that seemed to see through all his defenses. So you're alone like Grandma was before I came? Kind of. Being alone is sad. It's very sad. At that moment, Betty's voice echoed from inside the house. Lily, what are you doing up? Lily looked quickly at Walter, as if she instinctively understood that this situation was delicate. I'm coming, Grandma, she shouted back. Then she whispered to him, Are you going to keep coming? If you need me. We need you, not just the food. I think you need us too. Before Walter could answer, Lily ran into the house, closing the door behind her. He stood on the dark street for several minutes, processing the girl's words. I think you need us too. No adult had ever read his emotional needs with such clarity. No expensive therapist, no sophisticated woman, no business advisor had come so close to the truth about his loneliness. Walter returned home that morning knowing that he had crossed a line from which he could no longer return. Lily had seen through his masks with the frightening ease of children. And even worse, she had offered something that he didn't know he needed: belonging. The next morning, Betty found the bags and was silent for long minutes. Lily watched her nervously, fearing that her grandmother would be angry for having spoken to the stranger. Grandma? Did that man say anything strange to you? No, he's kind, and he said that when he was little, someone helped him, so he helps us. Betty sighed deeply. Lily, my dear, promise Grandma one thing. What? If that man shows up again, you don't leave the house alone with him, no matter how kind he seems. Why, Grandma, is he bad? I don't know if he's bad, but I know that rich men who are interested in poor children always have motives that aren't what they seem. Lily frowned. But he said he was alone, and he seemed really sad. Promise, Lily. I promise, Grandma. But even making the promise, Lily couldn't stop thinking about the man who had defended her at the party and now took care of them in secret. There was something in his eyes that she recognized, the same loneliness she saw in her own eyes when she looked in the broken bathroom mirror. That night, she stayed awake waiting, but Walter didn't show up. Not the next night either. It was as if he had sensed Betty's reservations through the walls and decided to back off. But the seed had been planted, and in lonely hearts, seeds grow quickly. Marina Fuller arrived in Atlanta on a Tuesday morning, driving a dusty white Civic from the 6-hour drive from Savannah. At 35 years old, she carried on her shoulders the weight of a career dedicated to protecting vulnerable children, and in her heart, scars from a past that had made her flee that city 8 years ago. Her brown hair was tied in a practical bun, and her simple clothes contrasted with the natural elegance she had always possessed. When she stopped in front of the building of the Department of Family and Children's Services, DFCS, Marina took a deep breath, preparing to face not only a new job, but ghosts that she preferred to keep buried. The secretary who received her, Ms. Davis, was a middle-aged woman who knew all the secrets of the city. Marina Fuller! Girl, you've grown so much. Last time I saw you, you were still engaged to Walter Caldwell. The name hit Marina like a slap. That was a long time ago, Ms. Davis. He never married, you know. He became even more closed off after you left. The woman lowered her voice, as if to reveal a secret. They say he's been doing some strange things lately. What kind of things? Nobody knows exactly, but he's been very interested in the poor neighborhoods, asking questions about needy families. Very strange for someone who has always been so distant from everything. Marina felt a shiver run down her spine. During the 3 years they had dated, she had intimately known Walter's controlling personality, his obsessive need to maintain emotional distance from everyone. If he was taking an interest in poor families, something very serious had happened. Ms. Davis, I need the list of families in situations of extreme vulnerability. I want to make home visits this week. Of course, dear, but can I give you a tip? Start with Betty Johnson and her granddaughter. Poor things, they live in a very difficult situation, but the old woman is too proud to ask for official help. That afternoon, Marina went to the neighborhood where Betty and Lily lived. The narrow streets and houses squeezed against each other, brought back memories of her own simple childhood, before she got a scholarship that changed her life. When she knocked on the door of the small house, it was Lily who answered. The girl wore a clean but clearly mended dress, and her large eyes watched Marina with cautious curiosity. "Hi, sweetie. Is your name Lily?" "Yes. Who are you?" "I'm Marina, from DFCS. I came to talk to your grandma." Lily ran into the house. "Grandma, there's a lady here who wants to talk to you." Betty appeared at the door, leaning on the doorframe. Her eyes were sunken, showing sleepless nights, and Marina immediately realized that the woman was sick. "Good afternoon, Ms. Johnson. I'm Marina Fuller, social worker. May I come in?" "Social services? I didn't call social services for anything. It's just a routine visit to get to know the families in the neighborhood and see if we can help in any way." Betty hesitated, but politeness prevailed. "Come in, but the house is simple." The interior of the house was clean, but showed extreme poverty. Old furniture, peeling walls, and a medicinal smell that Marina immediately recognized. Heart problems. "Are you taking medication for your heart?" "How do you know?" "I've been working with this for years, and by your color and breathing, you need urgent medical attention." Betty sat down heavily in the rocking chair. "Doctor costs a lot, ma'am, and I have to take care of my granddaughter." Marina watched Lily playing on the floor with dolls made of cloth. The girl was visibly well cared for despite the poverty, showing the love and dedication of her grandmother. "Ms. Johnson, I'll be direct. You need medical help and Lily needs to be registered in our assistance programs. I can provide all of this." "No need. We manage." "Managing how?" Marina looked around. "Selling paper flowers? What's wrong with that? It's honest work. There's nothing wrong with it. But you're sick and Lily needs stability." It was then that Lily approached shyly. "Ms. Marina, can I tell you something?" "Of course, sweetie. There's a man who brings us food. He's very kind." Marina felt all the alarms go off in her mind. "What man, Lily?" "A man in a suit who has a black car. He brings bags of food and medicine for Grandma." "Lily!" Betty scolded, but her voice was weak. "Did this man ask for anything in return?" asked Marina, trying to keep her voice calm. "No. He just talks to me sometimes. He said that when he was little, someone helped him." Marina looked at Betty, who looked away. "Ms. Johnson, do you know this man?" "I don't know who he is," Betty lied, but her pale face gave her away. "Does he have a name, Lily?" "I call him Nice Mister, but he never said his name." Marina spent the next 2 hours asking careful questions, and each answer confirmed her worst suspicions. A rich man, interested in a poor child, making secret donations, creating emotional bonds, all the signs she had learned to recognize in her training, and Lily's physical description corresponded exactly to Walter Caldwell. When she said goodbye, promising to return the next day with documents to enroll Lily in the assistance programs, Marina was deeply disturbed. If her suspicions were correct, she needed to act quickly. That night, she drove to the city center and stopped in front of Walter's business building. The lights of the penthouse were on, confirming that he was still working at his usual time. Marina went up to the top floor, her hands trembling slightly. The secretary had already left, but the office door was ajar. "Walter?" she called, knocking lightly. His voice came from inside, cold and controlled as always. "We're closed." "It's me, Marina." The silence that followed was deafening. After long seconds, his voice returned, lower. "Come in." Walter was standing behind the desk, his hands resting on the mahogany surface. His hair was grayer, and there were new lines around his eyes, but he still possessed the same imposing presence that had attracted her years ago. 8 years, he said, without emotion in his voice. 8 years, she confirmed, closing the door behind her. What do you want, Marina? I came to talk about a girl named Lily. Walter's expression didn't change, but Marina noticed his hands clenching on the table. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you do. Black car, nightly donations, conversations with a 6-year-old child. Marina took a step forward. Walter, what are you doing? Nothing that concerns you. It does concern me. I'm a social worker and a vulnerable child is involved. Vulnerable to what? To having food on the table and medicine for her grandmother. Vulnerable to becoming attached to a man who will disappear from her life when he gets tired of the game. The accusation hit Walter like a punch. You don't understand anything. Then explain it to me. Explain why a man who has always run away from any emotional responsibility is getting involved with an orphaned child. Walter moved away from the desk, walking to the window. She's not an orphan. She has her grandmother, a sick grandmother who may not last long. That's why I'm helping. And then, when Betty passes away, what will happen to Lily? Walter was silent, watching the city lights. Marina's question echoed a concern that he himself had tried to ignore. Walter, I know you. I know your intentions are good, but I also know that you're terrified of real commitments. You can't play with a child's feelings. I'm not playing. Then what are you doing? Because the last time we tried to build something together, you ran away at the first difficulty. Walter turned, his eyes meeting hers for the first time. That was different. How was it different? Because you wanted things that I couldn't give. I wanted a family, Walter. I wanted children, a real home. And you panicked. What if I said that maybe I've changed? Marina felt her heart race, but forced her voice to remain firm. Changed why? Because of a child you barely know? Because she made me remember who I was before I built all these walls. The silence stretched between them, charged with 8 years of hurts and unspoken words. Marina, he said finally, I need your help. Walter's sentence echoed in the silent office like a confession he never imagined making. Marina watched him for long seconds, trying to decipher whether those words were genuine or just another of his emotional manipulations. Help with what exactly? She asked, crossing her arms. Walter moved away from the window and walked to a chair, sitting down for the first time since she arrived. The gesture revealed a vulnerability that Marina had rarely seen in him. Betty is getting worse. Anyone with eyes can see that. He paused, running his hands through his hair. And when something happens to her, Lily will be alone. There are legal procedures for that, Walter. Foster families, specialized shelters. No. The word came out with a firmness that made Marina recoil. Lily is not going to a shelter, not while I can avoid it. And what do you propose? Adopting her, if necessary. Marina felt the ground move beneath her feet. You can't be serious. 8 years ago you panicked when I mentioned having children. You said you could never be responsible for a child. People change. Not you. You built your whole life around control and emotional distance. Walter got up abruptly, walking to her. You want to know the truth, Marina. The truth is that Lily haunts me. From the first day I saw her, I can't stop thinking about her. I wake up in the middle of the night worried if she's hungry, if she's cold, if Betty managed to buy her medicine. That's not paternal love, Walter. That's obsession. Is it? He stopped inches from her. Then explain to me why, for the first time in decades, I feel truly alive. Why this 6-year-old girl managed to break through defenses that even you, who couldn't completely tear down. Marina felt tears sting her eyes, because she's innocent, because she doesn't know your flaws. But what's going to happen when she finds out, when you get tired of the novelty? I won't get tired. How can you be sure? Because when I look at her, I see myself at 6 years old. I see the child I was before I learned not to trust anyone. The silence that followed was broken by the ringing of Marina's cell phone. It was Ms. Davis from DFCS. Marina, honey, sorry to call so late, but it's urgent. The ambulance just took Betty Johnson to the hospital. Heart attack. Marina felt her blood run cold. And the girl? She's with the neighbor, Miss Johnson. But the poor thing won't stop crying. I'm going there. Marina hung up and looked at Walter, who had heard the entire conversation. Betty had a heart attack. Let's go. Walter was already grabbing his car keys. We're not going anywhere together. Marina, this isn't the time for personal fights. Lily needs us. She needs me. You're a stranger to her. I'm the stranger she waits for every night at the window. The sentence hit Marina like a slap. What? Every night, when I pass by her street on my way home, I see a small shadow in the window. She waits for me, and when she sees me, she waves. Marina closed her eyes, trying to process the information. Walter, do you realize what you're saying? That you've created an emotional bond with a child without thinking about the consequences. The consequences. The consequence is that for the first time in years, I have a reason to wake up in the morning besides money. They went down in silence in the elevator, each lost in conflicting thoughts. In the parking lot, Walter opened the passenger door of his car, but Marina shook her head. I'll go in my car. We can't arrive together. Why? Because I'm the social worker responsible for the case now, and you are... What exactly? An anonymous benefactor? A future adoptive father? You need to define your role before appearing in her life officially. Walter stood in the parking lot, watching Marina drive away alone. For the first time, he was being forced to confront the reality of his confused feelings for Lily and the practical implications of wanting to be part of her life. 20 minutes later, Marina arrived at Miss Johnson's house, a 68-year-old woman who lived next door to Betty. The house was small but tidy, full of images of saints and the smell of always fresh coffee. Marina, so glad you came. The girl won't stop crying since they took Betty. Lily was huddled on the sofa, hugging a rag doll, sobbing quietly. When she saw Marina, she ran to her. Miss Marina, Grandma is very sick. Marina hugged her, feeling the small body tremble against hers. I know, honey, but the doctors are going to take good care of her. Is she going to die like Mom? Lily's direct question made Marina fight back her own tears. We don't know. Yet Lily, but we're going to hope very hard that she gets better. And if she doesn't, where am I going to live? Ms. Johnson approached. You can stay here with me for as long as you need, honey. But Lily shook her head. I want to stay with the nice master. He said that when he was little, someone took care of him. Now he can take care of me. Marina felt a chill run down her spine. Lily, you told him that. I did. And his eyes lit up like he was going to cry. What else did you guys talk about? He said he's very lonely, and I said that I'm lonely, too sometimes, even though I have Grandma. Lily wiped her nose on her nightgown sleeve. Then he said that lonely people need to take care of each other. Marina exchanged a worried look with Miss Johnson. The situation was more complicated than she had imagined. Lily had clearly created a fantasy about Walter, seeing in him the father figure she never had. Miss Johnson, can I talk to you in the kitchen? The two women moved away, leaving Lily on the sofa. This man who helps them, do you know him? Asked Marina in a low voice. Never seen him in person, but I know he exists. Betty got very upset when she found out. Upset how? She started getting nervous, looking at the street all the time. She said she was afraid that the past would come back to haunt them. What past? I don't know. Betty's very reserved, but once when she had a high fever, she raved about a boy she helped a long time ago. She said he had grown up and come back. Marina felt a chill. Did she say the boy's name? Not clearly, but she said something about shouldn't have come back and he's going to suffer again. At that moment, soft knocks on the door interrupted the conversation. Ms. Johnson went to answer, and Marina heard a familiar male voice. Good evening. I'm Walter Caldwell. I came to hear news about Betty and Lily. Marina appeared in the living room just as Lily jumped off the sofa. Nice mister! You came! The girl ran to him, who picked her up in his arms automatically. How are you, sweetie? Sad. Grandma got very sick. I know. I came to see you and find out if you need anything. Marina watched the interaction with the critical eyes of a social worker, but also with the heavy heart of a woman. The way Lily snuggled in Walter's arms, as if she was finally safe, was disturbing and touching at the same time. Nice mister, said Lily. If Grandma goes to live with the angels, are you going to take care of me? Walter looked over the girl's head, meeting Marina's eyes. At that moment, she saw in him something she had never seen before, a man willing to give up all the control he valued so much for a child he barely knew. If you want, he replied softly, and if it's best for you, yes. And Marina knew with absolute certainty that their lives were about to change irreversibly. The regional hospital had that characteristic smell of disinfectant and suffering that reminded Marina why she had chosen to work in social services. It was early in the morning when she, Walter, and Lily arrived at the emergency room, the girl still in her nightgown and slippers, holding firmly to Walter's hand. Betty Johnson, said Marina to the receptionist. She arrived a few hours ago with a heart attack. Family. I'm the social worker responsible for the case. This is the granddaughter. The nurse looked at Walter curiously. And you, sir? Walter hesitated for a fraction of a second. I'm a friend of the family. Only family members can enter. The ICU. Please, said Lily in her small voice. He's like family. Grandma likes him. The nurse was moved by the girl's expression. You can wait here. The doctor will come talk to you soon. The uncomfortable chairs in the waiting room became the setting for a vigil that would last all night. Lily fell asleep in Walter's lap after 2 hours of anxious questions about when she could see her grandmother. Marina watched the scene with conflicting feelings. She trusts you completely, said Marina in a low voice, and that worries you. It should worry you too. Children get attached quickly, but they also get hurt easily when they're abandoned. Walter adjusted Lily in his arms, covering her with his coat. I'm not going to abandon her. How can you be sure? You don't even know the life she leads, her needs, the challenges of raising a child. Then teach me. Walter's simple answer disrupted all the arguments that Marina had prepared. It doesn't work that way, Walter. It's not a course you take on weekends. Then how does it work? Because so far the only thing I know is that when I look at her, I feel something I haven't felt in decades. What do you feel? Walter was silent for long moments, watching Lily sleep. Responsibility, fear, and a desperate desire to protect her from everything that can hurt her in this world. And when she throws a tantrum, when she gets sick, when you realize that your single life is over. When did you decide to work with vulnerable children? The question caught Marina off guard. What does that have to do with anything? Answer me. When I was 8 years old, I saw a child being mistreated and no one did anything. And you never regretted it? Never thought about giving up when the cases got too difficult? Marina understood where he was going. It's different. Is it, or is it exactly the same? A decision that springs from something greater than reason. Before Marina could answer, Dr. Miller, the cardiologist, appeared in the waiting room. He was a man of 50 years, grey hair and a grave expression. "Family of Miss Betty Johnson?" Lily woke up immediately. "How's my grandma, doctor?" Dr. Miller crouched down to the girl's level. "Your grandmother is very sick, sweetie. Her heart stopped working right, but is she going to get better?" The doctor looked at Marina and Walter before answering. "She's stable now, but it's very serious. We need to talk about some important things." Marina got up. "Lily, how about you stay here coloring while we talk to the doctor?" A nurse brought paper and crayons, and the adults moved away for a private conversation. "Betty Johnson is 71 years old, and her heart is severely compromised," explained Dr. Miller. "This heart attack was extensive. Even if she recovers from this crisis, her life expectancy is limited." "How long?" asked Walter. "Hard to say. Months, maybe a year if we're lucky." Marina felt the world spin. "And can she go home?" "If she stabilizes, yes. But she'll need constant care, strict medication, and a lot of rest." "Doctor," said Walter, "cost is no problem. She can have the best care available." Dr. Miller observed him with interest. "Are you a relative?" "No, but—" Walter looked at Lily, who was trying to color but was clearly paying attention to the conversation. "But I care about them." "I understand. Well, I'll do my best to stabilize her. You can visit her tomorrow, but only for a few minutes." When the doctor moved away, Marina turned to Walter. "Did you hear what he said? Betty may only have months to live." "I heard." "And then, what happens to Lily?" "Then we'll take care of it." "There's no "we'll take care of it," Walter. "There's a complex legal process, social investigations, psychological evaluations." "Marina," his voice interrupted her. "For God's sake, stop seeing obstacles for a minute and help me find solutions." "Solutions for what? For your guilt? For your sudden need to be the hero?" Walter stepped back, controlling his irritation. "You want to know the truth?" "The truth is that I don't know why I care so much about her. I just know that I do. That's not enough." "No. Then what is enough? A certificate of ideal parent, a guarantee that I'll never make mistakes. It's enough to think about what's best for Lily, not what you need to feel better about yourself." The discussion was interrupted by a small voice behind them. "Are you guys fighting because of me?" Lily was standing a few feet away, the crumpled paper in her hand, tears in her eyes. "No, honey," said Marina, quickly crouching down. "We were just talking about how to take better care of you." "I heard you talking about Grandma going away like Mom." Walter approached and knelt next to Marina. "Lily, your grandmother is very sick, but the doctors are going to do everything they can to help her. And if she goes away, are you going to put me in a house with other orphan kids?" The direct question made Marina and Walter exchange a loaded look. "Lily," said Marina carefully, "there are very good families who take care of children who have been left alone." "But I don't want other families. I want to stay with the nice." "Mister," Lily looked at Walter, "you said that lonely people need to take care of each other. We're both lonely." "Sweetie, please." Lily's voice was loaded with a painful maturity for a 6-year-old child. "I promise I'll be good. I'll study hard. I won't be any trouble. Just don't send me away." Walter felt something break inside him. He picked Lily up in his arms, hugging her tight. "No one is going to send you away, I promise." "Walter," Marina whispered, "you can't promise that." "I can, and I promise." He looked at Marina over Lily's head. "I'm going to do everything necessary, all the processes, all the evaluations, all the paperwork. But Lily is not going to any shelter." Marina observed the determination in his eyes and realized that she had underestimated the depth of the bond that had formed. It wasn't obsession or guilt. It was something more primitive and powerful, the instinct to protect. "Okay," she said, finally. "But we're going to do this right. I'm going to help you understand what it really means to be responsible for a child." Lily raised her head from Walter's shoulder. "Are you going to take care of me together?" Marina and Walter looked at each other, realizing that the girl's innocent question had opened up a completely new dimension of complications. "We're going to take care of you," said Marina carefully, "each in our own way." But as she spoke, she knew that it wouldn't be that simple. Lily had achieved something that seemed impossible, making two wounded adults completely rethink their lives. And the scariest thing was that Marina was starting to want it to work out. The days that followed Betty's heart attack brought a strange routine to everyone involved. Lily divided her time between Ms. Johnson's house and Marina's company during visits to the hospital. Walter appeared religiously at 6 in the afternoon, always bringing something for the girl, coloring books, fresh fruit, or simply his reassuring presence. Miss Johnson watched everything with attentive eyes and a sharp tongue. "Marina, girl, that man isn't normal. Rich man doesn't dote on a poor child without wanting something. He seems genuinely concerned about Lily," Marina defended, surprising herself with her own defense. Miss Johnson adjusted her reading glasses. "You know what's weird? Betty gets agitated every time I talk about him. Yesterday, when I said the man had come to pick up Lily, she tried to get out of the hospital bed." Marina stopped reviewing the social assistance papers. "What did she say?" "She got repeating, 'It can't be him. It can't be him.' Then the doctor had to give her a sedative." "Miss Johnson, are you sure that Betty never talked about knowing this man?" "Look, I've lived next door to her for 15 years. Lately she's been talking a lot about the past, mainly about a time when she worked in a rich mansion when she was younger." Marina felt a chill. "What mansion?" "The Caldwells. She was a maid there when the boy was little." The world seemed to stop around Marina. "What boy?" "The heir." "What was his name again?" Miss Johnson scratched her head. "Oh yeah, Walter. Betty always said he was a very sad child." Marina needed to lean on the table to avoid falling. The revelation exploded in her mind like a puzzle coming together in a terrifying way. Walter Caldwell. Betty had worked at the Caldwell's house when he was a child. The neighbors' words about the past coming back to haunt. It all fit together disturbingly. "Miss Johnson," said Marina, controlling her voice, "can you take care of Lily tonight? I need to take care of something urgent." "Of course, dear. But you're pale. Is everything okay?" "It is. I just need to verify some information." That night, Marina drove to Walter's office with her heart pounding. If her suspicions were correct, the situation was much more complex than she had imagined. When she arrived, he was working late as always, but this time she didn't knock on the door. "Walter, I need you to tell me the truth." He raised his eyes from the documents, noticing the tension in her voice. "About what?" "About Betty Johnson." The silence that followed was revealing. Walter looked away, confirming Marina's suspicions. "You know her, don't you? It's no coincidence that you're interested in Lily." "Marina, Betty worked in your house when you were a child." It wasn't a question. Walter leaned back in his chair, the mask of control finally falling. "She did." "For how long?" 3 years, from when I was 6 to 9 years old." Marina felt nauseous. "You knew who she was from the first day?" "No." The answer came too quickly. "I mean, not immediately." "When did you realize?" When I saw Lily at the intersection with her. Betty is older, thinner, but you recognized her." "I recognized her." Marina began to walk around the office, trying to process the information. "And yet you continued to approach, knowing that you could cause suffering to an elderly and sick woman? It wasn't about causing suffering. Then what was it about?" Walter got up and walked to the window. It was about settling scores with the past. What scores? Betty saved my life when I was 8 years old. The revelation hit Marina like a punch. How so? My father was violent, very violent, and my mother pretended not to see. Walter paused, his voice getting lower. One day he beat me so badly that I fainted. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. Betty had found me and called the ambulance. And then she was fired. My father said she had interfered in matters that were none of her business. Walter turned to Marina. She lost her job for saving me. And you never saw her again? Never again, until that day at the intersection. Marina sat down heavily in a chair. Walter, do you realize what this means? You're not helping Lily out of altruism. You're paying a debt. What if I am? Does that make a difference to her? It makes a difference to me. It makes a difference to any adoption process. You can't raise a child based on guilt. It's not just guilt. No? Then what else is it? Walter returned to his desk, opening a locked drawer. From inside, he took out an old and yellowed photo. Look at this. The photo showed a boy of about 8 years old, too thin, with visible bruises on his face and arms. Next to him, a young woman in a maid's uniform, Betty, 40 years younger. She was the only person in that entire mansion who treated me like a human being, said Walter. The only one who comforted me when things got bad. Marina observed the photo, feeling her heart clench. Why didn't you ever tell me this? Because I don't like to talk about my childhood. I thought I had buried all of this. But you didn't bury it. No. And when I saw Lily, alone and vulnerable like I was, I knew I had a chance to do something right. To protect a child like Betty protected me. Marina returned the photo. And Betty, does she know that you know who she is? I suspect. So, that's why she's agitated in the hospital. Walter, you have to talk to her. I can't. If she officially recognizes me, she may get even more stressed. The doctor said that any strong emotion can be fatal. And what if she dies without knowing that you recognized her? Without knowing that you're grateful? Then I'll demonstrate my gratitude by taking care of her granddaughter. Marina was silent for long minutes, processing all the information. The situation was much more complex than any case she had ever faced. Walter, I need to ask you a very serious question. Ask. Do you love Lily, or do you love the idea of saving a child like you would have liked to have been saved? The question hit Walter like a bullet. He was silent for so long that Marina thought he wouldn't answer. I don't know, he said finally. Maybe both, but does that matter? The result is the same. She's going to have a safe home and all the love I can give. It matters because children feel when they're not loved for themselves, but for what they represent. And you? Why are you helping me? Because of Lily or because of what you feel for me? The question turned the tables completely. Marina felt her face flush. That's different. Is it? Or are we two wounded adults trying to heal through an innocent child? The silence that followed was charged with unspoken truths. Marina realized that Walter had touched on something that she didn't want to admit even to herself. I need to go, she said, getting up. Marina, wait. No, Walter, I need to think about all of this, and so do you. When Marina left the office, she left Walter alone with his ghosts and a question that he didn't want to answer. To what extent were his feelings for Lily genuine, and to what extent were they an attempt at personal redemption? On the other side of the city, Lily slept peacefully at Miss Johnson's house, unaware that her life was being decided by adults who carried wounds as deep as hers. And in the hospital, Betty fought against fevers and nightmares where an 8-year-old boy cried asking for help, and she couldn't reach him. June arrived in Atlanta, bringing with it the typical weather of summer. The streets filled with colorful decorations. The smell of barbecue began to fill the air, and everywhere you could hear the characteristic sound of country music. For Lily, who had never participated in a real summer festival. It was pure magic. "Ms. Marina, can I go to the square dance?" she asked while watching the rehearsals through the window of the social services office. Marina smiled, seeing the sparkle in the girl's eyes. "Of course you can. We'll sign you up today." "And can the nice mister go too?" The innocent question made Marina hesitate. Since the conversation in Walter's office, she had kept her distance, trying to process all the revelations. But she saw how Lily missed him. "You can ask him," she said finally. That afternoon, when Walter arrived for his daily visit, Lily ran to him with the enthusiasm of always. "Nice mister! Ms. Marina said I can square dance." "That's great, sweetie." Walter picked her up in his arms, noting how she had gained weight in recent weeks with adequate food. "You're going to look beautiful in your summer dress." "Are you going to see me dance?" Walter looked at Marina, who watched the interaction with an indecipherable expression. "If you want me to go—" "I do, and I want Miss Marina to dance too." Marina almost choked. "Me, Lily, I don't square dance, but you can learn like me." Walter smiled for the first time in days. Marina has always been good at dancing. In high school, she was the best in the class. "Did you know each other in high school?" asked Lily, fascinated. "We did," said Marina quickly, "but that was a long time ago." "And were you dating?" The awkward silence that followed was broken by Miss Johnson, who arrived with shopping bags. "Lily, honey, go help Grandma Johnson with these heavy bags." While Lily walked away, Marina took the opportunity to talk to Walter in a low voice. "We need to talk about the summer festival." "What about it?" "It's going to be the first time. You appear publicly as what exactly? Godfather? Future adoptive father? As someone who cares about her." "Walter, people are going to talk. Atlanta is a small town. Everyone knows your story. They know that you've never been interested in children." "And what's the problem?" "The problem is that they may start asking questions. And if they find out about Betty—" "Marina, I can't live my life based on what people are going to think. It's not about you. It's about Lily. She doesn't deserve to be the target of gossip." Walter watched the girl helping Miss Johnson, her laughter echoing through the yard. "So, what do you suggest?" "That we be careful. That we don't give reasons for speculation." "Being careful how?" "Not appearing together as if we were a couple. People are already commenting that we're talking to each other again." Walter frowned. "What people?" "Miss Davis asked me yesterday if we were rekindling our relationship. And what did you answer? That we're taking care of a child. Nothing more. Is that all it is?" The question carried a weight that Marina didn't want to face. "It is." But when she said that, she knew she was lying. The past weeks taking care of Lily together had awakened feelings that she thought she had buried 8 years ago. 2 days later, Betty was finally discharged from the hospital. She was weak, but insisted on returning home. Marina and Walter took turns hiring a private nurse, organizing the room with necessary medical equipment, and ensuring that she had all the care. "Grandma!" Lily cried when she saw Betty arriving by ambulance. "I missed you so much." "My dear granddaughter." Betty hugged Lily with what little strength she had. "How you've grown in these days. Ms. Marina and the nice mister took care of me. They are very kind." Betty raised her eyes and found Walter standing in the doorway. For a moment, their eyes met, and Marina saw recognition pass between them like an electric current. "Miss Johnson," said Walter, approaching slowly. "How are you feeling?" "Better," she replied, but her voice trembled slightly. "Thank you for taking care of Lily. It was a pleasure." "Grandma," said Lily without noticing the tension, "the nice mister is going to see me square dance at the festival." "That's great, honey." But Marina noticed that Betty couldn't stop looking at Walter, as if she was seeing a ghost. That night, when Lily was asleep and the nurse was on duty, Marina and Walter met on the porch of the house. "She knows," said Marina, in a low voice. "I know. Are you going to talk to her?" "I don't know if I should. The doctor said that any stress can be fatal. And leaving this up in the air isn't stressful." Walter sighed. "Marina, I don't know what to do. I've never been in a situation like this. None of us have been." They were silent, watching the stars over Atlanta. The forced proximity of recent weeks had created an intimacy that neither wanted to admit. "Marina," said Walter suddenly, "are you happy?" "What do you mean?" "With your life, with your choices. Are you happy?" Marina thought about the question. "I was, until I got here. And now? Now I don't know anymore. Lily stirred up things that I was sure were settled." "What kind of things?" "Dreams that I had abandoned. A desire to have a family, to try again. With me?" The question hung in the air between them. Marina felt her heart race. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Maybe, or maybe it's just the situation forcing us to be close." "And how do we find out?" "I don't know that either." The next morning, Lily woke up early, excited for the first square dance rehearsal. Marina had bought a simple but beautiful summer dress, and Ms. Johnson offered to make braids decorated with colorful ribbons. "I'm nervous," confessed Lily while Marina adjusted her dress. "Why? What if I don't know how to dance right? What if the other kids laugh at me?" Marina knelt in front of her. "Lily, you're brave, smart, and beautiful. Anyone would be proud to dance with you. Is the nice mister going to be proud? I'm sure he will." When they arrived at the town square, there were already dozens of children rehearsing with their families. Lily grabbed Marina's hand, intimidated by the amount of people. "Do you want us to call Walter?" asked Marina. "Can we?" Marina called him, and in 15 minutes Walter arrived, visibly nervous about being in public in that situation. "Ready to rock the square dance?" he asked Lily. "I am." While watching Lily learn the basic steps of the dance with other children, Marina and Walter realized that they were being watched by several people. Whispered comments, curious glances, malicious smiles. "The whole town is speculating about us," murmured Marina. "Let them speculate." "Walter, Marina, look at her." He pointed to Lily, who was laughing as she tried to keep up with the music. "When was the last time you saw her so happy?" Marina watched the girl and felt her heart clench. "Never." "Then the rest doesn't matter." But even as they said that, neither could ignore the looks and whispers around them, and deep down, both knew that the real test was still to come. Because at the summer festival in Atlanta, secrets had a habit of coming to light, and the past always found a way to make itself present. The night of the summer festival arrived with a cool breeze that relieved the typical summer heat in Georgia. The town square was transformed. Colored lights hung between the trees, stalls selling typical foods, and an improvised stage where Mr. Jones's banjo was already warming the hearts of the residents. Lily was radiant in her blue summer dress with white polka dots, the braids decorated with red ribbons swinging as she walked between the stalls. Marina accompanied her, wearing a simple but elegant dress, trying to control her anxiety about being exposed to the curious glances of the city. "Miss Marina, can I have some barbecued corn?" asked Lily, pointing to one of the stalls. "Of course, honey, but only a little bit, or you'll get sick fordance." While waiting for the corn to be ready, Marina noticed whispers and glances directed at them. Miss Smith, the pharmacist's wife, approached with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Marina, dear, what a surprise to see you here with little Lily." "Good evening, Miss Smith. And that rumor I heard, that you and Walter Caldwell are back together?" Marina felt her face flush. "There's no rumor. We're just dealing with a social situation." Oh, sure, Miss Smith smiled maliciously. A social situation that you solve together every day. Before Marina could answer, a male voice interrupted. Good evening, ladies. Walter had arrived wearing a light dress shirt and jeans, more casual than Marina had ever seen him. He greeted Miss Smith politely, but his eyes immediately searched for Lily. Nice mister, cried the girl, running to him. You came. I promised I would. He picked her up in his arms, noticing how happy she was. You look beautiful, sweetie. Ms. Marina helped me look pretty. Walter looked at Marina, and for a moment their eyes met with an intensity that made Miss Smith whisper something to her friend next to her. When does the square dance start? Asked Walter. In half an hour, Marina replied. Lily is nervous. Nervous? You're going to kill it, sweetie. The festival MC called the children to position themselves, and Lily ran to join the group. Marina and Walter stood on the side of the stage, watching her find her partner, a boy the same age who seemed as nervous as she was. Look how focused she is, murmured Walter, a genuine smile on his face. She practiced the steps all week at Miss Johnson's house. The music started, and the children began the traditional square dance. Lily followed the steps with determination, her tongue appearing slightly in the corner of her mouth when she concentrated on the most difficult movements. Circle left, shouted the MC, and the children moved in a circle. Marina felt her eyes fill with tears, seeing the pure joy on Lily's face. The girl who weeks ago lived hidden, with fear and hunger, now danced under the colored lights like any normal child. She's happy, whispered Walter. She is. Marina discreetly wiped away a tear. She deserves this. She deserves much more. During the dance, Marina noticed that Walter didn't take his eyes off Lily. There was something in his expression, a mixture of pride, tenderness, and a fierce protection, that made her understand that his feelings for the girl were genuine, regardless of the initial motivations. When the music ended and the children received warm applause, Lily ran to them with a radiant face. Did you see? I did it. I didn't miss any steps. You were perfect, said Marina, hugging her. The prettiest one in the square dance, added Walter. Now can I have some peanut brittle? You can have whatever you want, replied Walter, laughing. While Lily savored her peanut brittle, sitting at an improvised table, Marina and Walter walked to the stalls. The atmosphere of the festival, with its colored lights and cheerful music, created a sense of normalcy that neither had felt in a long time. Want some cider? Offered Walter. Just a little bit. They moved away from the crowd a little, finding a more secluded corner near the church that was next to the square. Marina, said Walter suddenly, thank you. For what? For helping me with her. For teaching me things I didn't know about taking care of a child. You learned fast. I learned because I had a good teacher. He paused, looking in the direction where Lily was playing with other children. And because I really wanted to learn. Marina felt her heart race. Walter, I know you still have doubts about me. About whether I can be a good father to her. I don't have any more doubts about that. You don't? No. Anyone who sees you together realizes that you love her for real. Walter turned to her, surprised. And what about us? What do you mean? Do you still have doubts about us? The question that Marina had been avoiding was finally there between them, impossible to ignore. I'm afraid, she admitted. Of what? That we're confusing taking care of Lily together with something more. That when the situation normalizes, we'll discover that that's all it was. And what if it's not just that? What if it is? Walter took a step closer. Marina, when you left 8 years ago, I thought I had lost the only person who could make me truly happy. And now I know I was right. You're still that person. Before Marina could answer, screams coming from the direction of the square interrupted them. They ran back and found a crowd forming around someone on the ground. "It's Betty!" Someone shouted. "Call an ambulance!" Marina felt the world spin. Betty had insisted on coming to the festival, against medical orders, because she wanted to see Lily dance. Now she was unconscious on the ground, surrounded by people in panic. "Where's Lily?" asked Walter, desperate. "There!" Marina pointed to the girl, who was being comforted by Miss Johnson, crying copiously. Walter ran to Lily and picked her up in his arms. "Everything is going to be okay, sweetie." "Is Grandma very sick?" she sobbed. "The doctors are going to take care of her." But when Marina knelt next to Betty, she saw that she was conscious and trying to say something. "What is it, Miss Johnson?" "The boy," she whispered, grabbing Marina's hand with surprising force. "What boy?" "Walter. He was the boy that I—" "Miss Johnson, don't strain yourself. I need to tell Lily the truth." "What truth?" But Betty lost consciousness again before she could finish the sentence. The ambulance arrived in a few minutes, and once again they found themselves at the hospital, waiting for news. This time, however, Lily no longer had the innocent hope of the first hospitalization. She nestled in Walter's lap in silence, as if she knew instinctively that something had changed forever. Dr. Miller came out of the ICU with a grave expression after 2 hours of waiting. Her heart couldn't withstand the effort. It was another heart attack, more severe than the first. "Is she going to be okay?" asked Lily in a small voice. The doctor knelt down to her level. "Sweetie, your grandma is very, very sick. We need to prepare ourselves for her to go away like Mom," Lily finished, her voice surprisingly calm. "Maybe." Walter hugged Lily tighter, feeling that the world of all of them was about to change permanently. And down the hall, Marina wondered what truth Betty had tried to reveal before fainting. The 3 days following Betty's second heart attack were an emotional roller coaster for everyone involved. She was hospitalized in the ICU, in critical condition, and the doctors didn't know if she would resist this time. Lily had temporarily moved into Marina's house, while Walter assumed all medical costs and hired the best specialists available. "Can I see Grandma today?" Lily asked every morning, always with the same hope in her eyes. "Not yet, honey," Marina replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "She needs to rest to get strong." But Marina knew, from the medical reports that Dr. Miller shared, that Betty's chances of recovering were minimal. Her heart was extremely debilitated, and any effort could be fatal. On the 4th morning, Marina's phone rang at 6 in the morning. It was the hospital. "Betty Johnson is asking to speak with the social worker responsible for the case," said the nurse. "She's conscious and lucid, but very weak." Marina arrived at the hospital finding Walter already there, sitting in the hallway with a cup of cold coffee in his hands. His eyes were red from fatigue and worry. "She asked to speak with me," said Marina. "I know, she called me too, separately." "What do you think she wants?" "To tell the truth, she tried to reveal at the festival." They entered the ICU one at a time. Marina went first, finding Betty connected to several machines, but with her eyes alert and fixed on the door. "Marina," she whispered, her voice weak, but determined. "Thank you for coming. How are you feeling, Miss Johnson?" "Like someone who is leaving." Betty's direct answer made Marina shiver. "That's why I need to talk. About Walter." "What about him?" Betty breathed with difficulty before continuing. "He didn't tell you the whole truth." "What truth?" "About why I was fired from the Caldwell's house." Marina pulled a chair closer to the bed. "He said you were fired for helping him." "I was, but it wasn't just once." Betty closed her eyes, gathering strength. "His father forbade me from interfering. He said that if I did it again, I would be fired, but I couldn't let that boy suffer. And you interfered again. 3 times. The last was when I found Walter locked in the attic of the house, without food for 2 days. The father said it was punishment for having broken an expensive vase. Tears streamed down Betty's closed eyes. I disobeyed direct orders and took him out of there. I gave him food, I took care of his wounds. Marina felt nauseous. And you were fired for that? I was. But before... Betty opened her eyes, staring at Marina intensely. Before I did something that changed that boy's life forever. What? I took him away. Marina stopped breathing. What do you mean? One night, when the father was traveling on business and the mother was too drunk to notice, I took Walter out of the house. I took him to live with my sister in Savannah. For how long? 6 months, until the Caldwells found me and threatened to sue me for kidnapping. The revelation hit Marina like lightning. Kidnapping? Technically that's what it was, but I knew that if I didn't do something, that boy wouldn't survive. Betty grabbed Marina's hand with what little strength she had. Those were the happiest 6 months of his life until then. He went to school, he had friends, he slept without fear. And then I had to give him back. But with one condition, they had to send him to a boarding school far away. And that's what they did. Marina was processing the information when Betty continued. Marina, you need to understand. Walter wasn't just helping a needy family. He was paying a debt. I saved his life and now he wants to save Lily's. But that doesn't mean his feelings aren't genuine. No, but it means that they are more complicated than they seem. Betty coughed, making the monitors go off. Call him. I need to talk to him too. Marina left the ICU with her head spinning. When she saw Walter getting up from the chair, she realized that she would have to rethink everything she thought she knew about him. She wants to talk to you, said Marina. What did she tell you? About the 6 months. Walter's face paled. She told you about that? She did. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because those were the only 6 months of normal childhood I had. And because when I had to come back, I swore that I would never let anyone sacrifice themselves for me again. And now? Now I need to hear what she has to say. Walter entered the ICU with heavy steps. When he saw Betty, so frail and small in the hospital bed, he felt as if he was seeing the only mother he truly had. Betty, he said softly. Walter. She smiled weakly. My boy. You recognized me from the first day. From the first day. You may have gotten taller and stronger, but your eyes are still the same, scared and kind at the same time. Walter sat in the chair that Marina had left. Why didn't you say anything? Because I was afraid. Afraid that you were repeating patterns. What patterns? Of trying to save children to compensate for not having been able to save yourself. The observation hit Walter hard. And you think that's what I'm doing? At first, yes, but watching you with Lily... Betty paused to breathe. Watching, I realize that your feelings are genuine. You're not trying to save her, you love her. I do. And Marina, do you love her too? The question caught Walter off guard. Walter, I don't have time for lies or half-truths. You love Marina. I do. I've always loved her. Then why did you let her go 8 years ago? Because I was afraid of not being able to be the man she deserved. And now I know I can try. For her, for Lily, for us. Betty smiled, an expression of peace taking over her face. Then I can leave in peace. Don't talk like that. Walter, I need to ask you something very important, and whatever you want. When I leave, don't let Lily blame herself. Children always think they're responsible when adults leave. I won't let her. And take care of her like I took care of you, with unconditional love. I promise. And Walter? Yes, forgive your parents. Not for them, but for you. Carrying that hate is only going to hurt you and affect your ability to be a father to Lily. Walter felt tears stream down his face. How can I forgive what they did? Understanding that hurt people hurt other people, and choosing to break that cycle. At that moment, Betty's heart monitor began to make strange noises. Walter called the nurse, who ran to the ICU along with Dr. Miller. "You need to leave, sir," said the doctor, already working on the equipment. Walter came out and found Marina in the hallway, who realized immediately by his expression that something had happened. "How is she?" I think she's saying goodbye." They stood hugging in the hallway, waiting, when they saw Ms. Johnson arriving, almost running, bringing Lily by the hand. "She woke up asking to see Grandma," explained Ms. Johnson, breathless. "She said she had a dream and needed to talk to her urgently." Marina knelt down to Lily's level. "Honey, Grandma is very sick right now. Maybe it's not the best time." "Please," said Lily, tears in her eyes. "I need to talk to her. It's important." Dr. Miller came out of the ICU at that moment with a grave expression. "She's stable at the moment, but very weak. If you want to say goodbye, maybe it's time." Lily looked at Marina and Walter. "Can I go in?" "You can," said Walter, taking her hand. "Let's go in together." And so the three entered the ICU for what everyone knew would be a farewell. The ICU was silent when Lily approached the bed, where Betty was connected to the machines. The girl seemed even smaller in that hospital environment, but she walked with a determination that surprised the adults. "Grandma?" she called softly. Betty opened her eyes slowly, and when she saw Lily, a weak smile lit up her pale face. "My granddaughter, you came." "I had a dream about you, Grandma. You were trying to tell me something very important." Marina and Walter exchanged worried glances. Children sometimes had disturbing intuitions about situations they couldn't fully understand. "What was that dream, honey?" asked Betty, her voice weak but affectionate. "You were in a very pretty house, taking care of a boy who was hurt. And you said you needed to tell me about that boy." The silence that followed was charged with emotion. Betty looked at Walter, who had approached the bed, then at Marina, and finally back at Lily. "Lily, my dear, there's something you need to know about your family. About Mom. No, honey, about you, about who you really are." Marina felt a chill run down her spine. "Ms. Johnson, maybe this isn't the time." "It is the time," said Betty, with surprising firmness for someone so debilitated. "Lily deserves to know the truth before I leave." "What truth, Grandma?" Betty took a deep breath, gathering strength for the most difficult revelation of her life. "Lily, you're not my blood granddaughter." The girl frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" You came into my life in a very special way. Your real mother asked me to take care of you when you were very little." My real mother. But Grandma always said that Joanne was my mother." "Joanne was my daughter, but she wasn't your biological mother." Walter approached closer, feeling that something very important was about to be revealed. "Lily," continued Betty, "your real mother's name was Christina. She was a very young woman who worked as a maid in a rich house here in Atlanta." "And where is she now?" "She passed away when you were only 2 years old. She was very sick and knew she wouldn't be able to take care of you." "And why did she give me to Grandma?" Betty looked directly at Walter before answering. "Because she knew me. Because she knew I would take care of you with love." "How did she know Grandma?" Because we worked in the same house." Marina felt her breath catch. "Miss Johnson, what house?" "The Caldwell's house." The world seemed to stop. Walter staggered, needing to lean on the wall. Marina covered her mouth with her hands, and Lily looked from one adult to the other, trying to understand why everyone seemed so shocked. "Grandma, I don't understand. What does this mean?" Betty extended her trembling hand to Walter. "It means, my dear, that the nice mister who has been taking care of you is your brother." The silence that followed was deafening. Walter felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Marina was in total shock, and Lily looked from one to the other, slowly processing the information. "My brother?" she asked finally. "Your half-brother," corrected Betty. "You have the same father." "The same daddy?" "The same daddy. Christina was very young when she got pregnant by the boss. She told me everything before she passed." Walter finally found his voice. Why didn't you ever say anything?" "Because Christina made me promise that you would never know. She was afraid that it would bring problems for you and for Lily." "But now you're telling us," observed Marina, still trying to process the revelation. "Because now I'm leaving, and because seeing you together, I realize that it was destiny that brought you back to each other." Lily approached Walter, studying his face with new eyes. "You're my real brother?" Walter knelt down to her level, tears streaming down his face. "It seems so, sweetie. That's why you took care of me from the first day?" "No." Walter's answer was firm. "I took care of you because you won my heart. I didn't know that we were blood relatives. But now you know." "Now I know." Lily was thoughtful for a moment. "Does that mean you're not going away ever again?" "Never again." "And that Ms. Marina is going to be my sister-in-law?" The innocent question made Marina blush, and Walter smiled through his tears. "If she wants to," he said, looking at Marina. "I do," replied Marina without hesitation. Betty smiled, an expression of peace taking over her face. "Now I can leave in peace. You found each other." "Grandma, don't talk like that," said Lily, climbing onto the bed and snuggling next to Betty. "You can't go away now that we've discovered that we're a real family. My dear, sometimes people need to leave so that others can move forward. But I'm going to miss you so much. And I'm going to miss you too, but I'll always be here," said Betty, touching Lily's chest, "in your heart." Dr. Miller appeared in the doorway of the ICU. "Sorry to interrupt, but we need to check the patient's vital signs." After the exams, the doctor called Marina and Walter for a private conversation. "Her condition has deteriorated significantly. I believe it's a matter of hours." "She knows?" asked Marina. "I suspect so. Terminal patients often have an intuitive awareness about their remaining time." "And Lily?" "The girl seems to be processing the situation well. Children are more resilient than we imagine." When they returned to the ICU, they found Lily humming a song to Betty, who listened with her eyes closed and a serene smile on her face. "What song is that, sweetie?" asked Walter. "It's a song that Grandma always sang to me when I had nightmares. Now I'm singing it so she doesn't have nightmares." The simplicity and love in Lily's attitude deeply touched everyone present. "Walter," said Betty, opening her eyes, "can I ask you one more thing?" "Anything." "When I leave, tell Lily beautiful stories about me. I don't want her to remember only the last days, when I was sick." "I promise." "And Marina?" "Yes, Ms. Johnson. Thank you for taking such good care of her. You're going to be a wonderful mother." Marina felt tears stream down her face. "It was a privilege to know you." The hours that followed were of silent vigil. Lily refused to leave Betty's side, holding her hand and talking softly about things that only the two of them understood. Marina and Walter took turns bringing coffee and food, but neither could eat. When the sun began to rise, Betty opened her eyes one last time. "Lily, my dear, I'm here, Grandma. Remember what I always told you about the birds? That they fly free because they aren't afraid. That's right. You need to fly free too, without fear, with your brother and Marina taking care of you. I promise, Grandma. And remember that I love you more than all the stars in the sky." "I remember. And I love Grandma more than all the stars, too. Betty smiled one last time, closed her eyes, and her breathing became increasingly calm until the monitor showed a flat line. Lily was silent for a long moment, then kissed Betty's forehead. "Goodbye, Grandma. Fly free now." And so Betty Johnson departed, leaving behind a family that had formed in an unexpected way, but that was destined to stay together. The days following Betty's departure were a whirlwind of emotions and discoveries for the new family that had formed. Lily, with her childish ability to adapt, seemed to be processing the situation better than the adults. She had officially moved into Marina's house, but Walter spent practically all his free time there. "Brother Walter," said Lily one morning, using for the first time the affectionate term she had invented for him, "why didn't Daddy ever meet me?" The question caught Walter off guard while he helped Marina prepare breakfast. It was the first time Lily had asked a direct question about the father they shared. He wasn't a very good person, Lily. He didn't know how to take care of children right. Was he bad to you too? Walter looked at Marina, who nodded encouragingly. He was very bad. That's why Mom Christina didn't want him to know about me. I think so. She wanted to protect you. Lily reflected on this while spreading jelly on her bread. Then she was smart, like Grandma Betty. Very smart. And now I have you and Marina to protect me. Forever, promised Walter, kissing the top of her head. That afternoon, Marina needed to resolve bureaucratic issues related to Lily's guardianship and the adoption process that Walter had started. The discovery of the biological kinship simplified some things, but created other legal complications. "Dr. Anderson," said Marina to the family lawyer that Walter had hired, "how is the legal situation now that we've discovered that they are siblings?" "Much simpler, actually," replied the middle-aged man, adjusting his glasses. "Walter has a natural right to the guardianship of his sister, especially considering that he can prove financial and emotional stability." "And what about me?" asked Marina. "Can I be considered a legal guardian too? If you get married, automatically, or through a joint adoption process?" Marina and Walter looked at each other. The subject of marriage had been mentioned a few times in recent weeks, but always indirectly. "Doctor," said Walter, "how long would it take to formalize my guardianship over Lily?" "With the documentation we have and considering the circumstances, a few weeks. Justice tends to be agile in cases where there are proven family ties, and the best interest of the child is evident." When they left the lawyer's office, Marina and Walter walked in silence through the streets of downtown Atlanta. The city had returned to normal after the summer festivities, but for them, everything had changed completely. "Marina," said Walter, stopping in front of the church where they had met in their teens, "I need to ask you a question." "Ask." "Do you want to marry me for the right reasons?" The direct question caught her by surprise. "What do you mean?" "I want to make sure that you're not accepting because of Lily, or out of pity, or because it's convenient." Marina turned to face him completely. "Walter Caldwell, after everything we've been through, do you really think I would do that out of convenience?" "I don't know. Our situation is unique." "It is, but my answer would be the same if Lily didn't exist. Even after everything we've discovered, even knowing that my family is much more complicated than you imagined?" "Especially because of that." Marina touched his face softly. "Walter, you've spent your whole life thinking you were alone in the world. You discovered that you have a sister who loves you unconditionally. That doesn't make you more complicated. It makes you more human. And you can deal with that? With all this baggage?" "What baggage? A man who saved a child because he has a generous heart. A brother who would do anything to protect his family. A man who learned to love despite having grown up without love." Walter felt tears in his eyes. Marina, I love you, Walter. I loved you at 17, when we were just two teenagers discovering the world. I loved you at 25 when I ran away because I was afraid of not being enough for you. And I love you now at 35 because I finally understood that we are enough for each other. Then marry me. No! The answer made Walter recoil, confused. No? Not like this. Standing on the sidewalk after a conversation about legal paperwork, Marina smiled. Propose to me right, with Lily present, like a family. Walter laughed, feeling a lightness that he hadn't experienced in decades. You want a romantic proposal? I want an honest proposal. That night, the three were having dinner at Marina's house when Walter stood up suddenly from the table. Lily, can I talk to you about something important? Sure, Brother Walter. Would you like me and Marina to get married? Lily almost choked on her rice. You're getting married? If you agree, because you're part of our family now, and we make important decisions together. And if I agree, is Marina going to be my sister-in-law and my mother at the same time? It would be something like that, said Marina, laughing. And are you going to have babies? The question made both adults blush. Maybe, replied Walter. Would you like to have little siblings? I would. I always wanted a big family. Walter knelt on the kitchen floor, taking Marina's hands. Marina Fuller, do you accept to marry me and form a family with us? I do, she replied without hesitation. Can I be the flower girl? Asked Lily, clapping her hands. Of course you can, said Marina, hugging the girl, but the joy of the moment was interrupted by a loud knock on the door. Marina went to answer and found Miss Johnson with a worried expression. Marina, honey, there's a man out on the street asking about you. He said he's a lawyer and he's here to resolve an inheritance issue. Marina felt a chill run down her spine. What man? I don't know. Nice car, expensive suit. But something about him gave me a bad impression. Walter approached the door. Where is he? There on the corner, talking on his cell phone. Walter looked in the indicated direction and saw a man in his 50s, elegantly dressed, gesturing as he spoke. On the phone, there was something familiar about him that bothered him. I'm going to talk to him, said Walter. No, said Marina, holding his arm. Let's all go together. When they approached the man, he hung up the phone and turned to them with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Walter Caldwell. I am. And you are? Edward Caldwell, your cousin. Walter's blood ran cold. Edward was the son of his father's younger brother, and they had never gotten along. What do you want here, Edward? I came to deal with family business. It seems you have a sister. How did you know about this? Atlanta is a small town, cousin, and Betty Johnson's death is attracting attention, especially her revelations in the hospital. Marina instinctively pulled Lily closer to her. Edward, get to the point. The point is that our family has rights over the child. Lily is a Caldwell, and there are issues of inheritance and family assets involved. What issues? Our grandfather left a specific will about direct descendants of the family. Lily is entitled to part of the family inheritance. And the family decided that it would be best if she was raised within the traditional Caldwell standards, away from external influences. Walter felt a familiar fury rising in his chest. External influences. You understand, people from different social classes, without the proper preparation to educate an heiress. Marina took a step forward. Mr. Edward, Lily is very well taken care of where she is. I'm sure she is. But the family has other plans. What plans? Asked Walter, his voice dangerously low. A first-class boarding school, private tutors, the best that money can buy. Far away from me? Unfortunately, yes. The family thinks that you're Emotional instability is no way to raise a child. Walter was about to explode when he felt a small hand grip his. He looked down and saw Lily watching the entire conversation with wide, frightened eyes. "Brother Walter," she said softly, "does that man want to take me away from you?" The innocent question made Edward smile with false kindness. "Hello, Lily. I'm your Uncle Edward. I came to meet you." "I don't want to meet you," Lily said, hiding behind Walter. "I want to stay with my family." "Your real family is waiting for you." "My real family is here." Edward turned to Walter again. "Cousin, you have 48 hours to decide. You can hand over the child voluntarily, or we can settle this in court." "Edward," Walter said, controlling his anger with superhuman effort, "get out of my sight before I do something I'll regret." 48 hours, Walter. The Caldwell family always gets what it wants." When Edward walked away, Lily started to cry. "Are they going to take me away from you?" Walter picked her up, hugging her tightly. "Never. I promise I'll never let that happen." But as he comforted Lily, Walter knew the toughest battle of his life was just beginning. The next 48 hours were the most tense in Marina and Walter's lives. Dr. Miller had called an emergency meeting at his office, and the table was covered with documents, legal codes, and legal precedents. "The situation is complex," the lawyer explained, adjusting his glasses. "The Caldwell family has considerable financial resources and political influence in the region. But Lily chose to stay with us," Marina protested. "Doesn't that count?" "It counts, but she's only 6 years old. The court considers that children of this age do not have sufficient judgment to make decisions about guardianship." Walter stood up abruptly, walking to the window. "They did the same thing to me when I was a kid. They used money and influence to get what they wanted." "Walter," Dr. Miller said calmly, "you need to control yourself. If you show emotional instability, that can be used against you in the process." "Emotional instability? I'm fighting to protect my sister." "And that's exactly what we're going to argue. But we need to be strategic." Marina approached Walter, touching his arm. "What strategies do we have?" "First, prove that Walter offers a stable and loving environment. Second, demonstrate that separation would cause severe psychological trauma to the child. Third, question the true motivations of the Caldwell family." "What kind of motivations?" Walter asked. "Money, mostly. If Lily is entitled to a family inheritance, they may be interested in controlling that estate through her guardianship." "Is that possible?" "Very possible. And if we can prove it, it could completely invalidate their request." That afternoon, while Dr. Miller worked on the legal documents, Marina and Walter returned home to talk to Lily about what was happening. "Lily," Marina said carefully, "remember the man who showed up yesterday? The bad man? He's not exactly bad, just confused about what's best for you. Does he want to take me away?" Walter knelt in front of her. "He thinks it would be better for you to live with other people in our family." "But I don't want to live with other people. I want to live here with you. And we want you to live here too. But sometimes adults need to talk a lot to agree on these things. Are you going to let him take me?" "Never," Walter said firmly. "But maybe you need to talk to a judge about what you want." "Is a judge like the doctor at the hospital?" "Similar. It's an important person who makes decisions about families." "And if I tell him that I want to stay with you, will he let me?" "We hope so." Lily was thoughtful for a moment. "Can I take my drawing of our family to show him?" Marina felt tears in her eyes. "You can take as many drawings as you want." The next morning, Edward Caldwell returned, this time accompanied by an elegant lawyer and a court officer. "Walter," he said with a fake smile, "I hope you've thought better about our conversation." "I thought a lot, and my answer is no." "Too bad. Dr. Claudia, can you explain the legal situation?" The lawyer, A woman in her 40s with a cold expression addressed Walter. "Mr. Caldwell, my client has filed for emergency custody based on the best interests of the child. We have a restraining order." "Based on what?" "Financial instability, lack of adequate family structure, and mainly your personal history of psychological problems in childhood." Walter felt his blood boil. Psychological problems? "Medical records from when you were admitted at the age of 8 for aggressive behavior are in our case. I was admitted because my father beat me until I passed out. That's not in the official records of the time." Marina immediately realized what was happening. "You falsified the medical records." "We didn't falsify anything," Edward said. "We just presented the available documentation." "Documentation that you controlled 30 years ago to protect the family's reputation," Walter accused. "Prove it," the lawyer challenged. At that moment, Lily appeared in the room, coming from the kitchen where she was having breakfast. When she saw the strangers, she hid behind Marina. "Lily," Edward said in a forcedly gentle voice, "I came to pick you up to see your new house. I don't want to go. You'll like it. It's a very big house with a pool and horses." "I don't want horses. I want to stay with my brother." "Your brother can't take care of you properly." "But we can." Lily looked at Walter with tears in her eyes. "Brother, you said you'd never let them take me away. And I won't let you." The court officer spoke up. "Mr. Walter, I have a court order to transfer custody of the minor. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Harder?" Walter placed himself between the officer and Lily. "You're tearing a 6-year-old child away from the only family she knows, and I'm the one being difficult." "Sir, don't force me to call for reinforcements. Call whoever you want." It was then that a familiar voice echoed from the front door. "You're not calling anyone." Everyone turned to see Dr. Miller entering, accompanied by an elegant woman of about 60 years old. "Edward," the woman said with authority, "what do you think you're doing?" Edward's face paled. "Aunt Margaret." "Don't call me Aunt. Margaret. Caldwell is here as the matriarch of the family and the main heir to the Caldwell estate." Marina and Walter exchanged confused glances. "Dr. Margaret," said Dr. Miller, "can you explain the situation?" "I can. Edward, my dear greedy nephew, is trying an illegal maneuver to control Lily's inheritance through her guardianship." "That's not true," Edward protested. "Isn't it? Then why didn't you mention that there is already a specific will from our grandfather, stating that any direct descendant must be raised by close relatives who demonstrate genuine love? Because that will make your plans to control her money impossible." Margaret approached Lily, crouching down to the girl's height. "Hello, dear. I'm your great-aunt Margaret." "Hi," Lily said timidly. "Do you like living here?" "With your brother and Marina. I like it a lot. And they take good care of you?" "They do. They give me yummy food, they let me draw, and Brother Walter reads stories to me." Margaret smiled, getting up and facing Edward. "There's your answer. The child is happy, well cared for, and with relatives who genuinely love her. But Aunt, she needs proper education, preparation to manage the estate. Edward, you've already spent your own inheritance on bad investments, and now you want to get your hands on hers. It's not going to happen." Edward's lawyer tried to intervene. "Mrs. Margaret, there are legal issues." "What issues?" "Walter is the child's brother, has proven financial stability, and above all has her love. What legal argument do you have against that?" "The court order, based on false information and manipulated documents, Dr. Miller has already filed for annulment along with a complaint for forgery against you." Edward realized he had lost the battle. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Margaret said firmly, and if you try anything against this child again, I will use all my influence to ensure that you lose any rights to the family estate. When Edward and his lawyer left, a tense silence filled the room. Margaret, Walter said cautiously, why did you help us? Because 40 years ago, I knew what was happening in my brother's house, and I regret every day that I didn't do anything to protect you. You knew! I knew! And when I learned that you were caring for a child with love and dedication, I realized that you had become the man I always knew you could be. Margaret approached Lily again. Lily, dear, do you want to stay here with your brother? I do. Then you'll stay. Forever. Promise. I promise. And when you grow up, I'll teach you about the Caldwell family, the good part of the family. Lily ran to Walter, who picked her up. Brother, can I really stay? Forever, little one. Forever. Marina watched the scene, feeling that finally, after so much suffering, they had found peace. But there was still one last surprise waiting for them. 6 months after the legal battle with Edward, life had found a perfect rhythm for the family that had formed so unexpectedly. Marina's house had been transformed into a true home, with Lily's drawings glued to the refrigerator, toys scattered around the living room, and the constant sound of laughter echoing through the rooms. The wedding of Marina and Walter had been simple but moving, held in the same church where they met in adolescence. Lily was the proudest flower girl in Atlanta, wearing a pink dress that she herself had chosen and carrying the rings with a seriousness that made everyone laugh. Sister Marina, Lily said one December morning, using the new affectionate term she had invented after the wedding. Can I tell you a secret? Of course, my dear, replied Marina, combing the girl's hair for school. Sometimes I dream about Grandma Betty, and she's always smiling. Marina felt her heart tighten. That's good, Lily. That means she's happy where she is. And you know what else? In the dream, she says she always knew we were going to be together. She was very wise. Sister Marina, yes. Are you and Brother Walter going to have a baby? The question caught Marina off guard. It was something she and Walter had talked about a few times, but they hadn't decided for sure yet. Why do you want to know? Because I really want to. Have a little brother or sister, someone small for me to take care of and teach things. Marina smiled, touching Lily's face. If that happens one day, you would be the best older sister in the world. I would be. That afternoon, while Lily was at school, Marina and Walter received an unexpected visit. Margaret Caldwell arrived in her elegant car, but this time with a genuine smile on her face. Margaret, said Walter, hugging his great-aunt with genuine affection that had developed in recent months. Good to see you. I came to bring important news, she said, entering the house, and a surprise for Lily. What kind of news? Marina asked, serving coffee. Edward has been officially excluded from the family will. His fraud attempts were proven, and he lost any right to the Caldwell estate. And how? Does that affect Lily? On the contrary, it guarantees that her inheritance will be protected until she turns 18, and that you will have full control over how she will be educated and raised. Walter sighed in relief. So, it's over for good? It's over. Edward tried to appeal but was unsuccessful. The court was clear. Lily stays where she is happy and well cared for. And what is the surprise? Marina asked. Margaret smiled mysteriously. You'll find out when she gets home from school. 2 hours later, when Lily entered the house running, as she always did, she found an unknown woman sitting in the living room next to Margaret. Lily, said Margaret, I want you to meet someone very special. This is Isabel, your private art teacher. Private teacher? Lily asked shyly. Isabel was a woman of 30 years, with a warm smile and gentle eyes. Hi, Lily. I heard you love to draw. I do. I draw birds mainly. What a coincidence. I also love birds, and I came here to teach you new drawing and painting techniques. Really? Really. I even brought some materials for you to experiment with. Isabel opened a briefcase full of colored pencils, watercolors, brushes, and special papers. Lily's eyes sparkled like stars. Can I touch? You can touch everything. They are yours now. Margaret watched Lily's reaction with satisfaction. Isabel will come here twice a week to teach you. It is a gift from the Caldwell family. Thank you, Aunt Margaret, Lily said, hugging the woman. Later, when Isabel and Margaret left, the family gathered in the kitchen for dinner. Lily couldn't stop talking about the new paints and the drawings she wanted to do. Brother Walter, she said suddenly, can I ask you a serious question? Sure. Why was Daddy's family mean to you, but Aunt Margaret is nice? Walter and Marina exchanged glances. It was a complex question for a 6-year-old. Lily, Walter said carefully, sometimes in a family, some people are good and others are not so good. The important thing is for us to choose to stay close to the good people. And you chose to stay close to me? We chose, yes, and you chose to stay close to us. And now we are a chosen family? Exactly. Lily smiled, satisfied with the answer. I like chosen family. It's better than blood family sometimes. Sometimes it is, Marina agreed. 3 months later, one morning in March, Marina woke up feeling strange. Morning sickness that she knew well from conversations with other women. When the pregnancy test confirmed her suspicions, she stared at the result for long minutes, processing the emotions. Marina? Walter's voice came from the bedroom. Is everything all right? She left the bathroom holding the test, her heart beating fast. Walter, she said, showing the object, we have news. He looked at the test, then at her, then at the test again. Are you sure? I am. How do you feel? Happy, scared, excited, all at the same time? Walter hugged her, spinning, her in the air. We're going to have a baby. Shh, Marina said, laughing. Lily is still sleeping. When are we going to tell her? When we're sure everything is okay. I don't want to raise expectations and then everything's going to be all right, Walter said, kissing her forehead. Everything's going to be all right. 2 months later, when the pregnancy was confirmed and stable, they decided to tell Lily. They chose a Sunday morning when they were all relaxed at home. Lily, Marina said, remember when you asked if we were going to have a baby? I remember. Are you going to have one? We are, Walter said, smiling. Lily jumped off the couch, shouting with joy. When? What's it going to be like? Is it going to be a boy or a girl? Calm down, little one, Marina laughed. One question at a time. The baby is due at the end of the year, and will I be able to help take care of it? Of course you will. You're going to be the best big sister in the world. Can I choose the name? We can choose together, Walter said. That night, Lily made a special drawing, a family of 4, in front of the yellow house. They had moved to the original house that Walter had bought, with colorful birds flying around and a giant sun shining on everyone. It's our complete family, she explained, showing the drawing. It's perfect, Marina said, touched. You know what else? What? I think Grandma Betty sent this baby to us. In my dream, she said our family was going to grow. Marina and Walter exchanged glances, touched by Lily's innocence and wisdom. Maybe she did send it, Walter said. 8 months later, on a December morning, as Atlanta prepared for the holiday season, Pedro Caldwell Fuller was born. Lily, now 7 years old, held her little brother with extreme care, as if he were made of crystal. He's so tiny, she whispered. You were like that when you were a baby, Marina said. And am I going to protect him just like you protected me? Just like that, Walter promised. As they watched Lily humming softly to Pedro, Marina thought about the entire journey that had brought them there. An abandoned girl, a wounded man, a woman in search of purpose, and a wise old woman who knew exactly how to unite all the broken pieces. "What are you thinking about?" Walter asked softly. "About how sometimes life has a strange way of fixing things," Marina replied. "Betty knew this was going to happen." "She knew?" "I'm sure. She put all the right pieces in the right place. And now? Now we live happily ever after, just like in the fairy tales I read to Lily." Walter smiled, watching his two children, one biological, the other from the heart, but both equally loved. Outside the window, as if it were a sign, a cardinal landed on the branch of the oak tree and began to sing. Lily looked up from her little brother. "Look," she said, "the bird came to welcome Pedro." And so, in the yellow house surrounded by flowered gardens, a family that had been born of pain and grown in love continued to write its story. A story where wounded children healed, lonely adults found purpose, and true love always triumphed over all adversities. It was exactly as it should be.